The first insult hit harder than any drill. "Private Cole, did you crawl out of a dumpster for roll call?" Sergeant Harris's voice ripped through the barracks like a whip. The platoon roared with laughter, boots thudding against the floor, metal bunks rattling in rhythm. My hands froze on the buckle of my web belt, heat rising into my face, but I kept my eyes forward. That was the unspoken rule. Don't answer back. Don't give them more fuel. But every chuckle felt like a blade. Every smirk another reminder that I didn't belong here. I had shown up with second-hand gear. My boots weren't new issue, not yet broken in, leather scuffed from a pawn shop shelf. My duffel sagged like it had been carried through 2 wars already. While the others carried themselves like born warriors, I was the son of a factory worker. They all knew it too. It leaked out in every joke, every sideways glance. Stone, the loudmouth of the squad, grinned wide and called out, "Hey Cole, careful. Don't scuff those precious boots. Might cost your old man a month's wages." More laughter. Someone slapped the metal frame of a bunk to punctuate the joke. The sting wasn't just from the insult. It was from the way the others joined in, piling on, desperate not to be next in line. I thought maybe the silence would protect me. Maybe if I stayed still enough, their attention would drift elsewhere. But silence doesn't work in the barracks. It paints a target on your back. Harris circled me like a hawk, eyes cold, waiting for me to crack. "Look at this, boy," he barked. "Doesn't even have the guts to speak. Maybe we've been issued dead weight." I swallowed hard, staring at the row of perfectly lined boots across the room. Every soldier had theirs polished until they shone like black mirrors. Mine looked like they'd been dragged across gravel. No matter how much polish I'd rubbed in the night before, they still looked wrong. Out of place. Just like me. There was one pair of eyes that didn't join in. Corporal Mason sat on his bunk, arms crossed, watching the scene play out. He didn't laugh. Didn't defend me either. That's the thing about a silent ally. You don't know if they're waiting for the right moment or if they're just too scared to stick their neck out. Still, I felt it. The way his gaze lingered a second too long, like he saw something the others didn't. Later that night, when the lights were out and the barracks settled into snores and whispers, I taped a photo inside my locker. My brother's face stared back at me from under the yellowing tape. He'd worn the same uniform, carried the same rifle, but he never came home from Fallujah. I kept his picture close, not for pity, but for strength. Only Mason noticed when I closed the locker door. He said nothing, but I caught the quick nod before he turned away. The days blurred into drills. Sweat poured, boots pounded, rifles clattered. Harris had a special talent for finding my mistakes. "Cole, you call that a push-up? My grandmother could outlast you." His voice carried across the training field, and again the laughter followed. My chest burned, arms shaking, but I stayed in position. I knew better than to quit. Quitting in front of them would mean the end. At chow, Stone made sure I had no place to sit. He slid his tray across the bench, blocking me off with a smirk. I stood there, tray in hand, heat rising in my neck. The others stared, waiting to see if I'd fight for it. I didn't. I walked to the corner, sat alone, and ate with my back to the wall. Mason passed by, dropped a roll on my tray without a word. Small thing. But in a place where everyone wanted me to break, it meant more than he knew. Nights were the hardest. The barracks would quiet down, and I'd lie there listening to boots being polished, whispers traded about girls back home, plans for the weekend pass. Nobody whispered to me. Nobody asked where I was from. But that silence became my armor. If they thought I was invisible, maybe they wouldn't see the fire building inside me. Still, the sting of their words never really left. It clung to me like the smell of sweat-soaked fatigues. I kept telling myself to hold on, to endure, to outlast them. I repeated the words my brother had once told me. A soldier doesn't prove himself with talk. He proves it when the bullets fly. I clung to that memory like a lifeline, but I never expected what came next. One drill, one moment, would tear the platoon apart and force them to see me differently. I didn't know it yet, but the ground was already shifting under our boots. If this story resonates with you, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next chapters of this journey. Rain poured sideways across the parade ground, turning the dirt into thick brown sludge that swallowed boots whole. Harris's voice cut through the storm like a rifle shot. "Cole, you think this is a damn walk in the park? Move your sorry carcass before I bury you in this mud." My legs burned, every muscle screaming, but I pushed forward, shoulders heaving under the weight of my pack. The other recruits laughed as I stumbled, slipping face first into the muck. Stone's voice rose above the storm. "Somebody call his mama. Cole's drowning in a puddle." The laughter was cruel, sharp, and it stuck with me long after the march ended. But that night, when the barracks went quiet, I laced my boots back up and marched the course again, alone in the rain, each step hammering the humiliation out of my chest. The next morning, I felt it in my bones. My arms shook at reveille, my knees ached as I rolled off the bunk. In the chow hall, I sat alone again, the smell of powdered eggs and burnt toast hanging heavy. Stone strutted past, his tray stacked high. He accidentally tipped mine over with his elbow, food spilling across the table. "Oops," he smirked. "Guess Cole's fasting today." The table erupted. I froze for a second, heat rising in my chest, but I bent down, picked up the mess, and walked to the corner. I ate off a clean tray in silence. That's when Mason slid by, dropped a roll on my tray, didn't say a word. Just a glance, quick, subtle, but enough. Days blurred into drills, drills into punishments. Harris always found me. Push-ups until my chest gave out, sprints until my lungs tore open. "Cole, you are a disgrace to this uniform," he barked one afternoon, the sun blistering down. The platoon smirked, glad it wasn't them. Stone leaned in just loud enough for the others to hear. "Bet he quits by Friday." But I didn't quit. When the others slept, I stayed on the obstacle course, bloodying my hands against the wooden wall, falling over and over until the skin split open. On the 10th try, something changed. I gritted my teeth, pulled hard, and finally threw myself over the top, collapsing in the dirt on the other side. No one saw it, no applause, just the sound of my own breath, ragged but alive. That night I pulled a folded letter from under my pillow. My mother's handwriting was shaky, the ink smudged in places. "Your brother believed you could carry his torch. Don't let their voices drown out his." My chest tightened as I read it, the words echoing against the empty space inside me. I slipped it back into the envelope, tucked it close, and closed my eyes to the sound of snores and whispered jokes. Weeks passed. Every day was another chance for Harris to grind me down. He had a gift for humiliation. During rifle drill, he stalked past me, yanked my weapon from my hands, and tossed it to the ground. "Pick it up, Cole. Try not to cry while you do it." Stone laughed so hard he nearly dropped his own. I clenched my jaw, lifted the weapon, reset my stance, and carried on. But something was shifting, small, almost invisible. The more they mocked, the more stubborn I became. The laughter didn't sting as much. The insults didn't pierce as deep. I learned to breathe through it, to let it roll past me. Quietly I was changing, even if no one noticed. One night in the barracks, Stone and his buddies swapped stories about home. Cars, girlfriends, high school football glory. They bragged, they laughed. I stayed silent. Mason caught me staring at the picture of my brother taped inside my locker. "He was a Marine, right?" Mason's voice was soft, cautious. I nodded. "Fallujah," I whispered. He nodded back, then turned away, like he wasn't supposed to care, but couldn't help it. It was the first real word we'd ever shared. Then came the forced march. Harris loaded us heavy, packs overstuffed, weapons digging into our shoulders. The trail wound through hills slick with mud. Harris barked at me every few minutes, his voice a hammer on my back. "Cole, you're slowing us down. You're dead weight. You're a danger to the man beside you." Each word was another stone on my shoulders. My legs shook, vision blurred, but I kept moving. Stone jeered from the front. "Better leave him behind, Sarge. He won't make it." I fell once, pack slamming me into the dirt. The platoon roared with laughter. Harris stood over me, spitting rain. "You gonna stay down, Cole? You want me to call a medic so you can run home to Mommy?" My chest heaved. My hands dug into the mud. I pushed, muscles screaming, and got back on my feet. I don't remember finishing that march. Just the silence in my head as I put one foot in front of the other, the laughter fading behind me. That night in the barracks, Harris called me out one more time. "Cole," he said, his voice low, sharp, "you think you belong here? You think you'll ever earn the respect of this platoon? You're nothing but a placeholder, a name on a roster. When the bullets fly, you'll fold." The room went still. Everyone stared. Stone smirked. Mason looked away. I stood there, fists clenched, chest tight. Then I said, calm but steady, "We'll see, Sergeant." The silence was louder than any insult. Harris's eyes narrowed. Stone's grin faltered. Mason's head lifted, just a little. That was the night something broke. Not in me, but in them. They didn't know it yet, but the tide was turning. The next day, during weapons maintenance, Stone cracked another joke at my expense, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Careful, Cole, don't drop that rifle. Might break it worse than your pride." I looked up at him, steady, unflinching. For the first time, he blinked, looked away. It wasn't victory, not yet, but it was a crack in the wall, and I knew deep down the day was coming when they'd see me differently. The day when silence would no longer be mistaken for weakness, but for steel. What I never expected was how fast that day would come, or how it would change everything. The morning of the live fire drill hit different. The air was heavy, damp, and it smelled like cordite even before the first round was fired. We'd been warned all week. This was the closest thing to combat most of us would see before deployment. No do-overs, no second chances. Sergeant Harris barked as we lined up. "Today, boys, we find out who's a soldier and who's a liability." His eyes locked on me when he said it, like he couldn't wait to watch me fail. Stone smirked, elbowing the guy next to him. "Dead weight's gonna drop his rifle before we're halfway." Laughter followed. It always did. I said nothing. I just checked my weapon again, made sure the magazine was seated, bolt forward, safety on. My heart was racing, but my hands were steady. We moved into the range in staggered formation, rifles up, packs heavy. Targets popped up from berms, silhouettes painted in green, each one carrying the weight of judgment. Harris shouted over the crack of M4s. "Cover your sector, stay tight." The others snapped into rhythm, their weapons barking short bursts, brass casings raining onto the dirt. I fired steady, controlled. Center mass, one after another. Stone kept looking over, at me, laughing between rounds. "Careful, Cole. Don't shoot your own damn foot." I ignored him, eyes forward. But part of me burned. Always the same jokes. Always the same need to see me stumble. Then it happened. Stone's rifle jammed mid-drill. A loud metallic click, then nothing. He cursed, yanking at the charging handle. At the same time, a smoke grenade misfired in the pit ahead, flooding the range with a choking white cloud. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. Harris shouted orders, his voice muffled by the haze. "Stay low! Keep moving!" The line faltered. Recruits coughed, stumbled, broke formation. Panic bled into the air like gasoline on fire. Stone dropped to a knee, swearing. "I can't clear it!" His voice was raw, desperate. The guy who mocked me daily, the self-appointed golden boy, was frozen in place with a useless weapon. Rounds kept cracking overhead. The smoke pressed down, heavy, blinding. I don't know what moved me. Anger, instinct, maybe my brother's voice in my head. But I was at his side before I could think. I slapped his hands off the rifle, dropped to the mud and worked fast. Tap, rack, bolt locked back. Eject the jam casing. Clean reload. Safety off. I shoved the weapon back into his chest. "You're clear. Shoot." He stared at me like I just pulled him out of quicksand. For once, no smirk, no joke, just shock. Harris saw it too, his eyes widening through the smoke. He didn't say a word. Not then. We pushed through the drill, firing, moving, coughing until the range officer called ceasefire. When the smoke cleared, silence hung heavier than the gunfire had. Harris walked the line jaw tight. He stopped in front of me. For the first time since I arrived, he didn't shout. His voice was low. "How the hell did you stay calm in that mess?" I didn't answer. My uniform was soaked, mud streaked across my arms. My chest was heaving, but my hands were steady, weapons still at the ready. Before I could speak, Mason stepped forward. His voice broke the silence. Sir, his brother, he was a Marine. Fallujah. He died pulling his squad out of a firefight. Cole's not weak. He's lived this his whole damn life. The words hit the platoon like a blast. Everyone froze. Stone's mouth hung open. The color drained from his face. The guys who laughed the loudest looked down at their boots. Even Harris's eyes flickered with something I'd never seen before. Hesitation. I wanted to disappear in that moment. I never told them about my brother. That picture taped in my locker was for me, not for them. But Mason had said it out loud. And now the truth filled the space between us like thunder. Harris finally spoke, his voice hoarse. Is that true, Cole? I nodded once. No speeches, no tears, just the truth. Yes, Sergeant. He stared at me, his jaw working, but no words came out. Then he turned to the platoon. You all saw what happened out there. Panic spreads fast. One man froze, another kept his head, and the one you all laughed at just saved this drill from turning into a disaster. Stone tried to speak, but his voice cracked. Harris cut him off. Shut it. You owe him your damn thanks, Private, and you all owe him your respect. His tone was sharp, but there was something else there too. Respect he couldn't hide. The range officer confirmed what everyone already knew. Cole kept his weapon tight, cleared a jam under pressure, held formation. That's soldiering. His words carried weight, official and final. The laughter that had always followed me was gone, replaced by silence, a silence that felt like vindication. Back in the barracks, no one spoke as we stripped gear and cleaned weapons. Stone sat across from me, his rifle in pieces, hands shaking. Finally, he looked up, voice low. Thanks, and we're back there. He couldn't meet my eyes. Mason caught mine, though, and gave the smallest nod, like he'd known all along. That night, Harris called me into his office. His voice wasn't the bark I was used to. It was quieter, rougher. Cole, I misjudged you. He paused like the words burned his throat. You've got more composure than half this damn platoon. Don't lose it. He didn't say sorry. Men like him rarely do. But the shift was there. I felt it. Lying in my bunk later, I stared at the ceiling, the sounds of the barracks different now. No laughter aimed at me, no whispers, just silence. But it wasn't the same silence as before. This one carried weight, recognition, uneasy respect. I thought about my brother, about the promise I carried with me. I wasn't invisible anymore. I wasn't the punchline. They'd seen me under fire, and they'd never see me the same way again. The next day, during formation, Lieutenant Ramirez addressed the unit. His voice was firm, commanding. Yesterday proved something. We don't measure a soldier by where he came from, or what gear he carries, or how loud he brags. We measure him when everything falls apart. Private Cole showed what that looks like. Learn from Marty Uwasinar. It. His words landed heavy, and for once no one dared argue. Stone kept quiet, eyes forward. Harris didn't bark at me. Mason stood a little taller beside me. Something fundamental had shifted. The man they mocked had become the man they followed, even if no one wanted to admit it out loud. I never asked for respect. I never asked for redemption. But sometimes it comes in the smoke, in the fire, in the moment when everything could collapse and you hold the line anyway. That's the moment that changes everything. That's the moment they finally see you. And from that day on, I wasn't just the recruit with pawnshop boots. I was something else, something they couldn't laugh away. The days after the live fire drill felt strange. The barracks had gone quiet in a new way. No more jokes when I walked by, no more laughter behind my back. But silence has weight, and this one felt heavier than the insults ever did. Stone wouldn't look at me. Harris barked at everyone else, but when his eyes hit me, he stopped short, like he wasn't sure what to say anymore. It was almost worse, like the whole platoon was waiting to see if I'd trip again, if what happened on the range was a fluke. The chow hall was the hardest. Before, they never let me sit at their tables. Now they made room, but no one spoke. I carried my tray, sat down, and felt 20 sets of eyes slide away. Mason slid in across from me one night, set his tray down, and broke the silence. "You know they hate you even more now, right?" His tone wasn't cruel, just matter of fact. I looked up, confused. He smirked a little. "Because you proved them wrong. Makes them choke harder than if you'd actually failed." He stabbed his fork into the mystery meat, chewing like it didn't matter. But he was right. Stone finally cracked during rifle maintenance. He slammed his cleaning rod down, eyes flashing. "Don't think one damn lucky move makes you better than the rest of us." His voice carried, sharp enough for Harris to hear across the room. The sergeant walked over, arms crossed. For the first time, he didn't back Stone. "Careful, Private. Cole's the only reason you didn't fail that drill outright." Stone's face reddened. The whole platoon froze. Hearing Harris defend me, it was like the floor shifted under all of us. That night, Stone cornered me near the bunks. His voice was low, trembling with anger. "You made me look weak. Don't forget who you are. One mistake, and I'll be there to watch you fall." His words were venom, but his eyes told a different story. Fear. For the first time, he wasn't laughing. He was rattled. That gave me something I never had before. Leverage. The shift came to a head during morning formation. Lieutenant Ramirez stood in front of us, sunlight flashing off his silver bars. He'd been quiet through most of training, letting Harris run the platoon, but today he spoke directly. "Yesterday's drill showed me something. Some of you think this uniform entitles you to respect, but respect is earned, and I saw one man earn it under pressure." His gaze swept across us and stopped on me. Private Cole, front and center. My stomach dropped as I stepped out of line, boots hitting the gravel with every beat of my heart. Ramirez pinned a ribbon on my chest for composure under duress. Harris called out the words, his voice flat but official. Displayed courage, control, and leadership in the face of crisis. The platoon clapped, some slow, some reluctant. Stone's hands never moved, but Mason's did, steady and firm, and that meant more than the rest combined. The climax came minutes later, when Harris dismissed us. Stone couldn't contain it. He stepped forward, voice cutting through the air. "Sir, with respect, Cole doesn't deserve that. He's dead weight. He just got lucky." The words froze the platoon. Ramirez's head snapped toward him, eyes cold. "You calling my judgment luck, Private?" Stone stammered. "No, sir, I just—" Ramirez cut him off. "You froze when it mattered. He didn't. End of discussion." The silence after that was like a verdict. Stone's face burned. Harris's jaw tightened, but he didn't speak. And the platoon? They looked at me differently. Not with kindness, not yet, but with something close to recognition. Later that night, as the barracks lights dimmed, Mason sat on the edge of my bunk. He didn't say much, just looked at the ribbon on my chest and whispered, "Told you they hate you more now, but they'll follow you when it counts." He slapped my shoulder once, then walked away. I lay there in the dark, listening to the shift in the air. The smirks were gone, the whispers were gone. What replaced them was heavier, harder to carry, but stronger too. I realized then that respect in the military doesn't come with handshakes or smiles. It comes with silence, the kind that says they see you now. They may not like it. They may not forgive you for proving them wrong, but they can't take it away anymore. And from that day forward, even the loudest voices couldn't change what had already happened. I wasn't the platoon's target anymore. I was something else, something they couldn't mock back into the dirt. What none of us knew was that the real test was still ahead, and that silence, heavy as it was, would soon be broken in ways none of us expected. The last week of training settled over us like a heavy fog. The barracks were quieter than ever, boots lined in perfect rows, weapons spotless on the racks. Respect had shifted, though no one dared say it out loud. I could feel it in the way eyes lingered on me longer than before, in the way whispers died when I walked into a room. Stone kept his distance, his voice clipped and cold whenever orders forced us near each other. Harris barked less, but when he did, his words carried less sting. And Mason, he didn't just glance anymore. He spoke. He leaned in during chow, offered advice on field stripping, walked beside me during runs. It wasn't friendship yet, but it was something close. One night, as the lights went out and the barracks dipped into its usual low hum of snores and restless shifting, I sat on my bunk with my brother's photo in hand. I whispered, barely audible, "I made it this far." My chest tightened. The ribbon pinned to my uniform was tucked neatly in my locker, but that wasn't what mattered. What mattered was that the laughter had stopped. For the first time, I wasn't the platoon's joke. I was part of something. The final inspection came at dawn. Lieutenant Ramirez walked the line, Harris shadowing him. Boots glistened, uniform sharp, rifles gleaming. When he reached me, Ramirez's eyes lingered a moment longer than the others. No words, just a nod. Harris's gaze was harder to read, a flicker of something like reluctant respect buried under years of barking authority. Then for the first time, Harris addressed me without insult. "Stand tall, Cole." Just that, but in his voice I heard everything he couldn't bring himself to say. That night, after the drills and the formalities, the platoon gathered on the yard. The flagpole cut against the sky, the stars and stripes catching the evening wind. We stood in loose formation, tired but sharper than we had ever been. Stone approached me, his jaw tight, his eyes avoiding mine. He opened his mouth, closed it, then finally said, "You proved me wrong." No smirk, no sarcasm, just raw truth. Then he walked away before I could answer. That single line carried more weight than every insult he'd thrown since day one. Mason, though, stayed back with me as the others drifted off. He looked at the flag, then at me. "They'll follow you now, even if they never admit it." He paused, then added, "You didn't just survive this place, you changed it." His voice was steady, but his eyes gave him away. Pride. Later in the quiet of the barracks, I slipped the photo back into my locker and whispered again. I carried it forward. My brother's face, worn by time, stared back at me. I realized then that this journey wasn't about silencing the laughter or winning a ribbon. It was about proving to myself and to everyone watching that silence isn't weakness. It's discipline. It's steel. The next morning, as the flag rose over Fort Ironwood and the bugle call echoed across the yard, I stood straighter than I ever had. Harris passed by, paused, and for the first time gave me a crisp salute. It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, but it was final. The acknowledgement I had waited for since the day I walked in with pawnshop boots. And in that moment, with the flag snapping above us and the sun burning the horizon, I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't invisible anymore. I wasn't the joke in the back row. I was a soldier. If this story resonates with you, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next chapters of this journey. The last image I want you to hold on to is this. A young soldier standing beneath the American flag at dawn, the colors snapping hard in the wind. The barracks are silent behind him, boots lined straight, rifles gleaming. The same sergeant who once cut him down with every word now gives him a single crisp salute. No speeches, no applause. Just that moment, silent recognition, hard-earned and undeniable. And in that silence, the weight of every insult, every long night, every bruise and blister finally breaks into something stronger. Respect, brotherhood, belonging. That's the lesson buried in this story. We all carry scars, some seen and some invisible. People will judge you by where you come from, the boots you wear, or the accent in your voice. They'll laugh, they'll doubt, they'll whisper that you don't belong. But what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And when the pressure rises, when everything is on the line, it's not the loudest voice that matters, it's the steady one. Actions speak louder than words. Silence can be weakness, sure, but in the right hands, silence is steel. This is more than a story about one soldier. It's a reminder of what the uniform means. Equality, resilience, brotherhood, honor. You reap what you sow, and those who sow cruelty reap regret. Those who endure with dignity earn respect that no one can take away. I'd like to hear from you. Have you lived through moments where you were underestimated, where you had to prove yourself the hard way? Share your story in the comments. We're all part of this together. If this story touched you, hit the like button so others can find it, and subscribe so you won't miss the next stories we share here. Until then, stand tall, stay strong, and remember, you're never alone in this fight.